Television is not the truth. Television is a goddamn amusement park. Television is a circus, a carnival, a traveling troupe of acrobats, storytellers, dancers, singers, jugglers, sideshow freaks, lion tamers, and football players. We're in the boredom-killing business. So turn off your television sets. Turn them off now. Turn them off right now. Turn them off and leave them off. Turn them off right in the middle of the sentence I'm speaking to you now. Turn them off.
Stop them. An idea whose time has come cannot be stopped by any army.
Welcome to Eradicating Programmed Ignorance, brought to you by TLB TV and broadcast on Conscious Consumer Network. Whom without, we wouldn't have a show. So please do me a favor, visit Conscious Consumer Network and donate. This is an organization supported by supporters such as you. But today we have another special, and it's a 2-hour special. As everybody knows, we usually have a 1-hour show. Today we're going to be doing a show with the National Liberty Alliance. The title of the show today is Justice for We the People. Today, my co-host is, as it always is every time we have a 2-hour special, because if it wasn't due to the magnanimous actions of Randy Maugans of Off Planet Radio, who also just happens to be the Liberty Beacon's IT director and radio network director, it wouldn't be possible for us to have a 2-hour special. In the second half of the show, after we will take a break after the first hour, we will switch roles and I will be Randy's co-host, which might give Randy actually a chance to say a couple of words. And for anybody out there chuckling, I'm very serious about that. I'd like to give you a little bit of a preface on the show here before we get started. Again, we're going to be talking with the principals of the National Liberty Alliance today. So a little bit of a preface on what we're going to be discussing, okay? The difference between common law and the law practice in our courts today, called statutory law, is simply as follows. Common law upholds the Constitution for the United States of America with its capstone Bill of Rights above all statutory law, whereas statutory law is held above the Constitution for the United States of America and its capstone Bill of Rights. Therefore, your rights are whatever our elected servants, yes, I did say servants, may choose it to be for you at the time. This is what the NLA, or the National Liberty Alliance, is endeavoring to change in our courts and thereby bring all our elected and appointed servants back under the authority of the Constitution. Because right now you are under the chains of your servants. This, my friends, is the very definition of tyranny. So a little bit about our two guests. Our two special guests tonight are the founders and facilitators of the NLA, or the National Liberty Alliance. First, I will introduce, or I will speak of, John Darash. He is married with 3 children. I want to tell you a little bit about his education, because what you're going to find out is that it doesn't take 50 years of education. It doesn't take a massive college degree or a doctorate to be extremely well educated and extremely intelligent on any given subject. John is an 8th grade graduate with a GED, but he is self-educated extremely well, I might add, because the National Liberty Alliance is a partner of the Liberty Beacon Project, and we are very proud to call them a partner. We've done many radio shows together. I've written articles for their phenomenal organization, and I am aware of the education these two gentlemen have. So he is self-educated in contract law, common law, court procedures and processes, and many other trades. His trade is a construction manager and general contractor. He did this for 35 years. He's retired. His liberty movement organizations that he's been associated with over recent years is, and I'll give you the short list: 1999, We the People; 2007, Ron Paul Revolution; 2008, Tea Party; 2009, filed his first court case in the New York Supreme Court. 2012, co-founder of the National Liberty Alliance. John has filed over 30 cases in federal district courts. So for anybody to say the man doesn't know what he's talking about, you're an idiot. His compadre is Gerard. And you know what? I've known Gerard for quite a while, and I still don't know his last name, and I believe that Gerard likes it that way, so we will simply call him Gerard. Gerard grew up the son of a lifer Marine and moved around for quite a bit as his father was stationed in various bases encompassing several states, eventually coming home to New York, where they settled down in upper state New York. Gerard is married to his high school sweetheart, and they have 9 children. Obviously, you've been a busy man, Gerard. In 1990, he opened up an auto repair shop, which he still operates today. Gerard also served 4 years on his town council and also held the position as deputy supervisor. He has been serving as a first responder on the volunteer fire department since 1991 and is still an active firefighter. About 5 years ago, Gerard became active in the Tea Party Patriot movement, where he met his present partner, John Durash, and they started New York Committeemen, which later morphed into what we're going to be discussing today, the National Liberty Alliance, which has been his passion ever since. And for anybody who doesn't know, and I don't know why you wouldn't know, you have to be hiding under a mighty big rock. My co-host is and well, Randy Maugans is a very good personal friend of mine. Randy Maugans has helped us build the Liberty Beacon project to what it is today by offering his IT expertise and has helped us put together our radio network. A lot of what we have and what we do today is as a result of the good things Randy has done with the Liberty Beacon project. Not only is he a good friend, but he is one of the most intelligent individuals I know and has the ability to do media by shooting from the hip better than anybody I've ever talked to. And I always make him blush. And if I don't, I'd be seriously disappointed. All right. So, Randy, why don't you jump in, give a little opening, and then we'll say hi to John and hi to Gerard. Unmute.
Always forget about that. You'd
Me
think,
too.
gosh, all these years of doing radio and TV.
Yes.
I think tonight's show is kind of exciting for me. I've wanted to do this for a while. We've talked about this. I've been aware of National Liberty Alliance and the great work that they've done, especially the mandamus suits that we're going to talk about later on tonight. But really what I'm excited about is the educational facilities that they offer through membership with the National Liberty Alliance. The average person in this country has been told that they need a lawyer to get equity and justice in the court system. And what I like about NLA and the law movement at large is that we've gone populist and we're empowering people to take back the ability to go into courts to establish their justice and to not rely on the the bar attorneys that have stolen the legal process from
Don't
the American
swear
people.
on the show, Randy.
Sorry about that.
You did say bar attorneys.
I did.
Anyway, so what we're going to do now is we're going to say hi to Gerard. Hi, Gerard. You have to unmute yourselves now, guys. We're going to say hi to John. How are you, John?
Well, how you doing, Roger? Thanks for having us, and Randy. Good to be here, and we're excited to get the message out.
What I would like you to do, John, and I know you're chomping at the bit to do this because you do this extremely well, is give us about a 5-minute overview of what the hell is the NLA for the uninitiative, what the difference between common law and statutory law is, and why it's so damn important for us to understand this and to jump on board your bandwagon and practice this? Please.
Well, yeah, common law ultimately is the law of the land under Article 6, and it really encompasses, obviously logic under principles, the principles of God. And National Liberty Alliance has been moving through the courts, filing papers, and the purpose of National Liberty Alliance is to actually save the nation through going and bringing justice back into the courts. Right now, obviously, we have injustice. It's a serious problem. All of the courts are operating under what's called chancery law, and that's statutory law. Now, statutory law in the United States is legal, depending on where the focus of the statutes are. The government is ruled under statutes. As a matter of fact, the Constitution for the United States of America, there is, I think it's 7 articles. And each one of those articles is a contract of statutory law. And it really lays out what their powers, what their authorities, how far they can go and what they can't do. The Bill of Rights particularly works on that. And of course, the Declaration of Independence is the really paper that, of course, started us all off, but it is also part of our law. It sets the stage under common law. But what these people have done is really they've robbed the judiciary. And I have really been stunned. We've been in the courts, I think, 5 or 6 years now. I'm trying to think when we actually went in, maybe about 2010, maybe end of 2009, I don't remember. But from the first time in, we were quite naive, thinking we were going to get justice in the courts, we would get a jury, and the judges would do the right thing. But the opposite was true, of course, and we have discovered that there is no justice in the courts. It's all about really settling accounts for the corporations. The people are irrelevant. They're destroying families. They're taking away people's homes. They're robbing their children. And due process just isn't available. I have found out recently, I've heard from people over time that there are states that are called non-judiciary foreclosure states, where the town under tax foreclosure would go forward without judiciary process. And the same thing with the mortgage companies. And the judges would sign off on these things. And it's a very strange way, the way they go about doing this. And it's pretty slick, and it's really a con job. But nevertheless, I've discovered that this is the fact of the matter in all 50 states. So we now are putting together a strategy to deal with those problems. We are taking on habeas corpuses. Last count I looked, we had 105 intake forms processing through for requested habeas corpuses. And that's over a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And from talking with our secretary, she's getting numerous new cases every day. So we're really starting to build up on the habeas corpuses. And a habeas corpus is one of the most powerful papers that could be filed in a court. And it moves you out of a jurisdiction that is not under law. And they have to hear it. They have to give it to you. It's an unalienable right. It's mentioned in the Constitution, in the body of the Constitution. And it's also mentioned in the Bill of Rights, the right of a grand jury and the right of a trial jury. What these people are doing in courts literally are acting as kings. Each one of these judges assume a position as king, and they rule whatever it is that they want to rule. And they always rule for the corporation, for the powers that be, so to speak, the status quo. But they will, what I have also discovered is they drag out every case so they can soak every dollar off you before they make the decision. And they already know in the beginning where it's going to go and what's going to happen. And the judges that are fighting on the lawyers that are fighting on your behalf, if you hire one of those guys, ultimately really is betraying the people. They're soaking money. It's a con job worked between the other lawyer and the judge. They already know from day one what the outcome of the case is going to be. So some of these cases, or many of these cases that I have seen, literally could be decided and dealt with in one day. There's no need for 3 years or 2 years. That's what they do, because they soak you dry. The Constitution requires free justice. It requires justice for all. As a matter of fact, the Constitution, the preamble to the Constitution, there are 6 purposes of government, and it's laid out right in the preamble. I'd like to just quickly read that. And it starts off with, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union. That's purpose 1, to form a perfect union. Establish justice. 2, ensure domestic tranquility. 3, provide for the common defense. 4, promote the general welfare, that's 5, and secure the blessings of liberty, 6. Each one of that is the preamble. That is the purpose of government. And all of the powers and all of the authority we gave to Congress, and we gave to the judiciary, and we gave even to the administration, is to fulfill that primary directive, which is to establish justice, particularly, and all these other 5 things that we had mentioned. So if in the process of law, bringing law together, taking care of the process where we've given them the authority to do so, in that process, the outcome has got to end up with one of those 4 points. Of course, we know it's everything but those 6 points. It's everything but those 6 principles and those 6 points. So we have a real serious problem. But what we had discovered was by taking back the judiciary, you can save the nation, and you could save it rather quickly. I'm going to make an amazing statement, and that is that once we get into the courts, and we're very close to that, we're about ready. It could be weeks, it could be months, but we're very, very close. But once we do get into the courts and start to administrate the process the way it should be by the people themselves, we the people taking control and power, we have government by the consent, and this is where we consent. We consent in the judiciary through the grand juries and the trial juries, and we consent to the political through the committeeman process. But once we get into the courts and actually start to take a power and authority and start fixing things, actually doing some constructive things, I would say within 30 to 60, maybe 90 days, depending on the education of the people at the time as we get in there, we can literally turn back the clock to 1789, and we'd be in an all brand new state, a slate, and we would have justice in the courts. Justice is, according to Black's Law Dictionary and Brovier's dictionary, justice is synonymous with virtue. And that's what we should be having in our courts, is virtue. So we, the people, are coming together with a sense of honor, a sense of justice, and a sense of mercy. And we require everyone that works with us to take a vow to God that they're going to act with those 3 senses. And in that process, we can save America just by being principled. One of the big mistakes our founding fathers made when they put this nation together, Jefferson had a paragraph for the Declaration of Independence, which was removed. I'm not going to read the paragraph at the moment. But anyway, it was a paragraph dealing with slavery. And it required, ultimately, that's, all men are free. I mean, that's what our papers say. That's what the Bill of Rights says. That's what the Declaration says. And there was arguments, of course, between the people. 2 of the states, I think it was North Carolina and Georgia, if I remember correctly. I think those were the 2 states that didn't want to give on this slave issue. So the other 11 states folded to that because they wanted to come in with 100%. They wanted to get all 13 colonies into the game and create 13 states and start the process. I think that was a test for them. They failed at that point. That's the one place they did fail. And we today are paying for that because, we have liberty. Take the Liberty Bell. They forged the Liberty Bell 3 times and it cracked all 3 times. And we're living with a cracked Liberty Bell. I think that's the finger of God making a point to what we have done. So, we really have lost our way. We've demoralized ourselves. It is true that the elite have taken control, that they have demoralized us. They have hidden the truth from us. They've assaulted us from every level. And I see that ultimately as a judgment for the sins of our fathers because we have continued in the process. But now we're moving towards justice. And the one problem that they made was they compromised. They went with expediency over principle. One of the things at National Liberty Alliance is we are 100% principled, and no matter what the cost, no matter what the cutoff, no matter what the loss, we will stand on principle and not expediency. And I believe by that we will be blessed for our endeavors.
I wouldn't agree or disagree with you at all on that. And I'd like to say hello to Gerard here and give you a chance to chime in. Why the National Liberty Alliance? What caught you? What brought you into this? I can see what you guys are doing because I've worked closely with you guys well over a year, and we've done media before. But you might be presenting this to a whole different audience here, Gerard. Why the National Liberty Alliance? What do you see coming from all of this?
Well, because we've basically exhausted our administrative remedies here. And, we learned basically through the school of hard knocks when we entered the court. We were naive. We were hopeful. We thought somewhere And as time went on, we said, there's got to be one good guy we're going to run in front of that's going to make the right choice. And that didn't happen, and it got worse and worse. And when we discovered U.S. versus Williams, it had come across our desk, and we were busy with other stuff. And so, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And so we had laid that down. And then it came back a few months later. I mean, I don't know, it was probably a couple, 3, or maybe even 6 months from when we were first exposed to that. But then I came across it again. And I don't remember if it was John calling me or I called John. I said, look at this thing. And we read it together. And we said, wow, this is powerful. Look at this. It's the people that have control. They're the fourth branch of government. We understood that you can't expect the government to stick their thumb in their eye and poke their eyeball out. They're not going to do it. And when you go in and you say, I want a judicial review, I want this, that's basically what you're asking them to do. Our forefathers do that. They had lived under King George. There's nothing new under the sun here. They had a Patriot Act back then, And basically what it was is when the colonists acted up, he told his generals, he said, arrest them and take them to court. And he says, I can't do it. He said, because they all have Black's laws, dictionaries, and Beauvilliers. He said, they know more law than the attorneys know, and they always get off. And he says, stick them in a ship and send them here, and we'll convict them. So there was your Patriot Act. The only thing is you didn't end up in Guantanamo overnight. It took you a month or 2 to get there. And so, of course, they had a lot more time to think and a lot more time to write. I think it was greater that things were slower and they were able to really ponder this stuff. And they did a pretty damn good job of what they gave us. Now, it's not perfect, and they said it was an experiment. So guess what? We're finishing the experiment. We know where it went bad. It's actually easy for us because we've built on their shoulders, I mean, they gave us all the right words.
Well, they gave us a good foundation.
Absolutely, absolutely. And look at how do you build a house? If you don't have a good foundation, it's not going to stand.
Exactly.
So they absolutely gave us a good foundation, and it's up to us now to put the roof on that and all the nice little finishings,
Well, hold on a second. I need your opinion on this. Would you agree with and I don't want to use the word conservative or liberals, but when you hear these short-sighted individuals say that a portion of the Constitution or a portion of the Bill of Rights is basically obsolete today, it doesn't work for society as it is. These are basic foundations, okay? They can be interpreted, okay, in any modern sense to work with any form of government we the people wish to use with it. Do you believe any part of the Bill of Rights or the Constitution is obsolete?
I'd bet you dollars to donuts anybody who would make that statement, if you challenge them and say, okay, where is that?
Obama.
But they wouldn't be able to show you where. Because
Obama.
This is such a great paper. I am blown away by this book. And look at how small it is. I mean, there's a few pages. It's a little booklet. And what is in here is just unbelievable.
Well, Obama says that the Second Amendment is obsolete, and what the hell? You don't need to go out and shoot turkeys. I just did a radio show whereby we discussed that the reason for the Second Amendment was for hunting. Absolutely, I totally agree. Hold on, let me finish here. It was for hunting, but it was for hunting traitors, not for hunting turkey.
Well, when you're the turkey, you definitely would call it obsolete, wouldn't you?
Yes.
An unalienable right can never become obsolete. The unalienable right of protecting itself can never be
obsolete. That's what I wanted to hear.
And so, look at these people are Marxists, they're communists, look at they're traitors. They're not American, none of them American. They were brought up in a controlled community, even if they were born, grown up in the United States, or part of their life was in the United States. Really, they're a controlled community. And, Bush hated the Constitution. He referred to the Constitution as that damn piece of paper. Obama, he claims to be a constitutional lawyer, and that's a real joke.
Scholar.
It's an oxymoron. But
yes.
Heavy on the moron side. But
let me jump in here for a second, because Randy, I can always tell when Randy wants to say something because his head starts to move back and forth like this. Okay, Randy, jump in there because I know you're dying to say something.
No, actually, I don't have much to add right now. I'm just enjoying it.
I love it. I love it. Well, John is not shy.
one of the things that I note here is that you guys are being awfully didactic by sticking to that printed word there. Aren't we supposed to interpret law? Isn't this a living document? I mean, come on. This is the 21st century now, guys.
It's a dead document. The only living document is the Bible. But look at our founding fathers were brilliant, and when you really look at this and dissect it. And by the way, we are in the process of doing an in-depth study, point by point, article by article, through the Constitution. We hope to have it done before the beginning of the year, and we're going to put that course up. We have a free course right now, a civics course, which is like 120 hours. It's pretty in depth. It covers a lot.
Where can people find that?
At nationallibertyalliance.org. Just
there you go.
And click on education, and go. No, actually, click on civics courses. Go right into the civics course. It's absolutely free. We decided when we started this thing, we weren't going to charge for anything. We were going to give away things. We wrote a lot of papers. We wrote a book on access into the courts. We did the civics course to put that together. And we decided, look, freely have we been given, freely we have to give, and we have to really rest in the hope that people will enjoy and understand and use what we have to offer them and join forces with us, and therefore they would support us. And if we have anything worthy, then we will be supported, and that's exactly what it's like.
I have to ask Gerard a question here. Gerard, do you believe that had John been brought up in a Common Core school class environment, he would have half the information and half the intellect he's got today?
You're asking about John now. If John was brought up in a Common Core environment,
no, he wasn't. There was no Common Core back then.
But if he was, he'd be in the corner all the time.
That was my point. That was my point. Oh yeah.
And look in history, who usually ends up rising to the top? It's always the misfits, and I can attest John's a misfit as well as I am, as far as what they consider normal.
As are Randy and I can honestly tell you we are definitely misfits. We're in good company here, which is why both Randy and I were dying to do this show. We've done radio shows before, but we haven't had a chance to look at your face when we can not only see what you're saying as you respond to a question we ask, but we can see what makes you smile and we can see what makes you angry. Then that adds that third dimension to the conversation. And I'm enjoying the hell out of this. And I know Randy is, because he says he doesn't want to say anything, but his head's moving back and forth, which tells me that he's all excited. Yes. So Randy, please jump in here, say something, ask something. I've told everybody how brilliant you are. You guys, don't prove me wrong here. Come on.
Well, no, actually, like I said, I'm kind of enjoying the conversation right now and flowing along with the audience in terms of an introduction tonight. I think one of the most important things that we're going to underscore tonight again is getting people into the tent. I think this is an intimidating subject for the average person. I have not been shy about being proactive in my own legal aspects, things that I've had to deal with, everything from IRS to speeding tickets. And when you do that, people find out who you are. They begin to ask you questions. And one of the things I've told people for a long time, when they've said, well, last night I was driving along and this cop pulled me over and he wrote me a ticket, and they're bitching and complaining about the ticket. And I'm like, we'll go to court. We can't go to court. I don't know law. What would I say? I said, well, you can start by showing up. But I said, it'd be a good idea if you understood some basic definitions. For instance, you were accused of driving. You were operating a motor vehicle on a highway. Yes. Were you or weren't you? Because most people have been trained to believe that all the terminology that's been thrown at us applies to us, when in fact we know that we have basically constructs of private law using color of law and various titles to pull us into a situation where we are, quote, prosecuted. So I think what National Liberty Alliance is doing with the education programs is getting people to the place where they can begin to educate themselves and feel a certain confidence. Do you see a confidence among the membership of NLA in terms of being more proactive?
John.
Asking me? Well, look, I think National Liberty Alliance is probably the most proactive liberty group out there. We have a huge membership, and it happened quite quickly. I was just looking back to see when we actually started. We started 30 months ago, and we actually were drafted into this system because we didn't ask for it. We were doing the committee
That's
now,
right.
and then we fell into the when we found United States versus Williams. We started looking into that, and we were working in New York. And we told other people in other states. We found that there were people coming into our meetings that weren't from New York. And after a while, there was more people coming into our meetings from other states than from New York. But the thing was, they were interested. So we told them, look, you can clone our website, take all our education, do whatever you got to do. And now at that point, we didn't have civics courses, and we were, we had a lot of work to do on the website. And eventually, we did do a lot of work, and we're actually getting ready to reconstruct again because we've grown so much. But actually, we were actually drafted into the system. Then I came to realize that there wasn't that many people that really were educated and understood the process and procedures of the court. They didn't understand the common law, and I was still learning myself at the time. But they didn't understand the difference between statutory and common law, and they were mixing it up too much, and they were mixing it up in the wrong way. Now, statutes do belong in the courtroom. The statutes are to control the bureaucracy, to control the bureaucrat. It is to control ultimately their actions. It's to control corporations, commercial business, but never is it to control the people. We, the people, ordained and established this Constitution for them. They're under the Constitution, we're above the Constitution. So the judge doesn't get a chance. He doesn't get the opportunity to rule on us. That's a violation of all that is holy in common law. Now, the Supreme Court has ruled numerous times that the only thing necessary to make a prima facie case is an affidavit. You could walk in, just take a piece of paper, write your story down, swear to it to a notary, walk into a court and say, I swear, and tell your story, and they have to hear your case. It's over. You don't have to do anything else because that's the big lie. Law ultimately is irrelevant when it comes to injury. The common law says for every injury, there must be a remedy.
Yes.
So now when you walk into a court, all you have to do is have the injury and say, I've been injured, and lay it out. Now, once you go through this process, law is all these maneuvers they make, and we've got to throw this out of court. We can't hear this witness. All that is a lie from hell. I heard on the radio this evening. I was listening to the little radio, and they were talking about a hung jury, and so therefore it was a mistrial. I want to go out and strangle somebody when I hear that.
Wait a minute, hung jury strangle. I get it. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. The fact of the matter is when you get a jury in a jury trial and you get what they call a hung jury, it could be one person saying, no, I'm not going to vote guilty on this guy. Well, you know what? That's it. They walk free. They don't get a second trial. We have the double jeopardy law right there in the Constitution. It's laid out. It's an unalienable right. You can't be tried twice.
For the same crime.
Right, exactly. And
well, I have a question for you. Hold on. Because I need you to speak to something that falls right into what you're saying. But this is the big granddaddy of what you're saying. This is the big kahuna question, okay?
Yeah.
This is what a lot of this boils down to. And that is, do most of these courts, especially these federal courts, have any jurisdiction over us at all? Because, and let me finish here, okay? Because a lot of these courts owe allegiance to a foreign power, which is Washington, D.C., and they only exercise any authority in Washington, D.C. and territories of the United States. Zero authority in any of the 50 sovereign states. Okay, so do these courts, in fact, even have any authority over you at all?
Well, you must be talking about our federal city that was seized by these evil people.
Yeah, the corporation, the 10 square mile corporation.
Look at the courts that they run are running under what's so-called chancery courts. These guys are chancellors, and a chancellor really is an appointed individual that is empowered or vested by the king.
But
And he's supposed
first
to
answer
bring
my
forth,
question, John.
I'm going to answer that question. He's
Okay.
supposed to bring forth the will of the king. And when there is no will of the king in a question in a particular situation within a courtroom, he gets to make it up on right off the fly, right there in the courtroom. It's exactly what these people are doing. No, these courts, even though they're Article 3 courts, they're created Article 3 courts, those buildings are our buildings. We pay for it. We pay for the computers. We pay for the electricity. We pay for the manning of those buildings. We pay for the paperwork. We pay for their fax machine. We pay for it all. That's ours. And when we go in, that's where we're to expect justice. Justice, again, was one of the first items in here in the preamble, to form a more perfect union and establish justice. Okay? And so they have courts of injustice. Now, when they open their court, we shut them right down, because we walk in and open up a higher court. That higher court is called the Court of Record, which is a constitutional court or a common law court. Remember, the Constitution is the contract between we, the people, and our government. And we, of course, created 3 branches, and we controlled those 3 branches. We gave 18 powers to the judiciary, to the legislator. Believe this or not, we only gave 4 powers to the president. I don't know if you knew
To
that.
the president, yes.
That's 4.
I
That's
did.
all 4.
They have he has the least enumerated
Yes.
powers of any branch of the
He's
government.
just the manager and a traffic cop in the whole system. Now,
That's
the judiciary is controlled by jurisprudence. In our case, we do have American jurisprudence, and ultimately gets back to common law and operating under the principles of the creator of the universe. And that brings forth our unalienable rights. Now, so when you walk into a court, look at the court is fine, the building is fine, the procedures, the processes, everything going on in a building is fine, but they're all corporately cloaked. Every system of government, every agency has been corporately cloaked. They put a corporate
So do they have authority over you?
When they're operating under their charter, they don't. And when they always operate under their charter. So they don't have authority, but you can go and change the jurisdiction and take control and take authority. And if they fail to do it, then you can go after them for violating the unalienable right of due process and a conspiracy. And then you got the USC 42 and the 18. I'm sure you're familiar with those, which is good statutes for the purpose for we, the people, to use against these out of control tyrants.
All right.
They have no authority, but we turn it around and we take authority from them.
Gerard,
uphill battle.
Add something to that, please. I am so sick and tired of people not understanding the fact that in most cases, when you walk into a courtroom, the first thing you can do is challenge their jurisdiction over you. Nobody even has the nads to even consider that.
Well,
but
you don't challenge it anyway.
It can be successful.
Oh, yes.
It can be. If you say, please show me your jurisdiction over me in this matter. And inevitably, they cannot do it.
Correct.
Well, they give you a gobbledygook answer,
Right.
because I'm in this court and I'm wearing this robe and all that stupid stuff. and they really reveal how much they don't know. And really, it's very hard to walk in, especially the lower court, which are called nisi prius, which means that they have authority unless you object, and they don't let you object. They fight you all the way, and it was always a battle of educating the judge, And so the lower courts are very much more uneducated. They live and die by their stupid statutes. And they love all this mandatory sentencing and all that stuff, because ultimately, they know it. I think after they've been in court long enough, they understand. But in the beginning, they don't know it. But they're all making money on it, And we've discovered that in these courts, every time the judge bangs his gavel and puts somebody in jail, he gets a bonus in his retirement account. Imagine that.
And in the federal courts, they actually get a big nut, $40,000, $50,000.
Well, imagine how much that person's 20-year sentence means to a for-profit prison, and the product that guy's going to put out in a for-profit prison over the next 20 years.
Well, that's what's going on. They're privatizing this stuff.
Going into a court, and we've learned not to challenge jurisdiction in that court. Basically, we ask them what jurisdiction we in, and then we let them know that we don't belong here. And if we've opened the court, then we let them know that we've opened the court in the jurisdiction of common law. And you got to shut them down, is what you got to do, because that's what they do. And once they realize that you're a danger to them because you're going to do the just thing, and you're going to bring the process through the process. And you're going to remove that judge. If that judge doesn't remove himself or bring that court back to where it belongs, then you got to sue that judge. You got to sue him in another courtroom. You see, the case that you originally started the case in, you got to stay with that, or the case that they have against you, you have to start and stay in there and squash it. But meanwhile, you got to start removing these people from the court, sending them to another court, which you open under common law, and you get them for conspiracy to violate your unalienable right of due process, taking you into a foreign court, because that's exactly what it is. It's a foreign court.
So when you challenge him, is he supposed to recuse himself?
Well, he's supposed to, but they're so arrogant and they think they're protected, that they think that they're untouchable. They think they're above the law. They may say those things to us, but it's really talking about themselves. But it doesn't take long after a while. Look, we had a case in Utah, for instance, okay? And when the court case started, they went after this guy because he was one of us. And they spent 3 months in a fishing expedition in order to catch him on something. And even that was a joke. Nevertheless, they arrested him. And when the judge started to hear the case, within the first 10 minutes, our name, National Liberty Alliance, came up. And within 10, 20 seconds after our name was mentioned in the court, that judge lost all composure and just said, I got to accuse myself. I can't stay in this case. I know you. And the individual that was in the case says, I don't know you. I've never been before you. How do you know me? No. I know you. I know you. And she left. So then they brought the fixer in, okay? So the fixer comes in, and he's real bold. He's going to be protected. And if he went to jail, they're going to pay him good. So, that would not happen in their system or in their eyes these days. But it will through us. But any event, the fixer comes in. He calls him a terrorist. He calls our group a terrorist group. He says, "Oh, these people, it wouldn't even give him bail. He was too dangerous to let go out onto the street." Okay. Well, anyway, they set a court date for 30 days later, where they come together and start the process of getting the jury and pulling all these things together. 30 days later, comes back, and the judge surprises everybody. He even surprised the prosecutors. They choked on this whole thing because he said he let him go. And now we did put him on probation, which we're now going after him for probation. But the bottom line is, let him go. And he says, look, this guy is really involved with this group of people, and they're really just concerned. Now we're concerned citizens. A month before we're terrorists, but now we're concerned citizens. Okay. Yes.
I call that
on in the minds of these people. They fear us. And
that's making headway, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. When the government fears the people, okay, when people fear the government, you have tyranny. When the government fears the people, you have liberty. We have people who fear us. We have judges who will recuse themselves. We have a lot of judges out there that really think that they're above the law and they're going to get away, or they don't really understand us too well. They will soon, and we filed some serious papers. We filed 13 papers, and the last paper we filed, I think, is something that's going to really rock their boat.
Well, you know what? We're probably going to end up by doing another show early next year, because there are some things coming down the road that you've hinted at to me. There's some things coming down the road with the Liberty Beacon Project. We're looking forward to doing everything we can to support you in any way we can going forward. As a matter of fact, you're one of the top organizations on our list to support in any way we can. And we'll discuss that more and more as the new year rolls around. Randy, anything you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I'd like to pick up where we kind of were in this. What is the presumption that these judges operate on that gives them jurisdiction presumed in the first place? Do they understand their jurisdiction vis-a-vis, quote, we the people? Are there in play here adhesion contracts, either real or imagined, that somehow or another guide them towards believing that they have jurisdiction or that we've ceded jurisdiction?
Well,
those are the things that make them feel better at night. That's all that is. They'll never talk. Hey, look,
okay.
Even Hitler changed the law so that he can hold a piece of paper up and say, "Look, it's in the law." Well, that's not the law. When you do something unconstitutional, and they've trained them to believe that we've contracted with them, and that's how they feel good about it.
That's true. Yes.
But this is even the rhetoric. This is even the rhetoric, and I've been around the Patriot community since the late 90s. This is the rhetoric around the Patriot community. You have a driver's license. You have a social security number. You have a birth certificate. They claim these are adhesion contracts that create a, quote, invisible bond between us and these de facto courts and government.
Yeah, but have you ever heard them actually say that? Have they ever put it in writing?
No.
Yeah, but they don't say that. They don't say because because what that would do is it would bring that subject into the court, and now we can argue it, right? You see, they don't bring that up because in their heads they might think that. And look at, and what our job is to do is to make them realize, look at, I don't care what you think your jurisdiction is. If you think it's my driver's license and my social security number and some of this stuff that people today have gotten before they were even before they're born, because if you're on social services, they give you a social security number before you're getting pooped out of the womb. So you got that number. You didn't ask for it. You didn't claim it. And even by virtue of your parents when you turn 18, look at a contract that's set forth that all sides don't know everything is fraud. So if I entered into that without knowing that I was giving up something, right?
Full disclosure.
That's right.
Well, you're talking about every citizen in this country, basically.
Exactly. So when you go in there, they're presuming you're a U.S. citizen because, and actually that's a fallacy because, you know, what are you going to do? Because I appear in front of you, I'm a U.S. citizen. Is that how you get your citizenship? So in other words, all these people coming in from all this country, they're presuming they're all U.S. citizens too, right? They're going to cover them. See, they're going to hang themselves with this.
No. You know what they're calling them today, Gerard? They've changed the name. They're no longer calling them illegal aliens. They're now calling them undocumented citizens. Now, think of what I just said. The two mutually exclusive terms.
Incredible. Yeah.
Undocumented citizen, which means all we need to do is sign a few pieces of paper and he's got full citizenship. This is what the government is calling them now. Undocumented citizens. Have you ever heard anything more freaking insane in your life?
Well, if you need voters, that's what you do.
Yes.
You go out and you document them and you let them vote for you and you promise them a bunch of crap. And
they don't promise them. They give them welfare. They give them Social Security. They give them housing. They give them free medical. And we've got tens of millions of Americans walking the streets homeless today that paid into the system their whole life that aren't getting treated as good as the illegals who walked across the border.
That's true.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. No, I'm not sorry about that.
Well, we should all start going to Mexico and sneaking back.
Well, it's not just Mexico. But yes, okay, I get your point. I get you. Yeah.
So
that might work.
You know,
it's a little hard to walk to Syria.
The major problems that the people have is they come in there and they try to get what they call standing in the court. There's a lot of poison out there on the internet teaching that you have to get standing, that you have to understand the lingo, that you have to be the man on the land. You got to get rid of your driver's license.
Yes.
Get rid of your social security number. You got to do this. You got to do that. You got to file a declaration in the county and let them know who you are. And then you can walk into the court and have standing and get somewhere. Well, that's a lie from them too. Look, at maybe 20, 30 years ago, it might have worked for an individual here or there, but they did tighten up over that, and they've closed that door. You can't do that no more. You know, you take the constitutional man, Mr. Miller. What's his first name? Carl Miller. Okay, you take Carl Miller. Okay, 20, 30 years ago, he'd walk into a court and he'd get the judges shaking in their boots, and they want this guy out. Okay, that worked back then, but they've already did the tighten up on that, and they now have a way to deal with this. And first, one of the weapons they use, or one of the tools they have in their toolbox, is to call you crazy, and we got to get you an evaluation, and so on and so forth. There's a number of things going on.
Yeah,
you want to win against these people. You write good paper. You go in. You be quiet. You don't say much. You make a few challenges. And then you go back and you write some writs of errors. You overturn everything the judge did, and then you file a paper against that individual and all the lawyers, because it's a conspiracy. When one or two or three people work together take you into a foreign court, into a foreign place, and to take away your due process, you've just been kidnapped under US 42, US C-18. So now you go to another court, you open that court, and you pull all these guys out. Then you have the next group. What do they want to do? When we did some battles, we went into a federal court in the first case. So we went into the federal court with, and it was an IRS case. And we didn't say much of anything. Every time I tried to talk, I'd get little things going, and the judge would just shut me down and move to the other guy. But he was also beating the other side up. All right. But our papers were pretty rock solid. We put some good stuff in there. And then when we left the court, he was going to make decisions in 3 weeks. Well, we did. We overturned his decision-making abilities. We gave him rid of error on that. He knew it was coming up because we had already sued everybody that was involved. We went after the sheriff because the sheriff was going to serve and take things away from people. So we wouldn't let him do that. We went after the clerk, so the papers couldn't be filed with the clerk. We went after the banks, so the banks wouldn't give the money over to the sheriff. We went after the 2 or 3 IRS agents, and then we went after, I think it was called the commissioner. I forget what they call the IRS guy, but the head honcho on the IRS. So we sued them all.
That's the IRS commissioner.
So we sued them all, and we brought them into court. Okay, we took them ultimately we took them into the state Supreme Court, which we should have went into the federal. We were a little late for it then. But they pulled us into the federal. We told them we couldn't get remedy there. They weren't capable of giving us remedy. Judge understood that. He understood some of the terms better than I did as far as some of the things I brought up in the court or pronouncing some of the words. He knew how to pronounce them. But in any event, when the paperwork went back, and he understood at that point, we're going for his flesh now because he is violating our unalienable rights. So he knew our next step would be to sue him in another court. The federal court, same building, same room, everything else, just different judge, different hat, with our paperwork. And so within 3 weeks after that, he never did make it to 3 weeks later. Instead, we got an apology letter from the IRS. We got a release of lien from the IRS. And of course, we didn't want to go back and poke him in the eye to get the $126,000 or whatever it was we were suing him for. So we let it go because we wouldn't be interested in the money anyway. We just wanted to get out from clutches. But the bottom line is, and then 6 or 9, I think it was 9 months later, all of a sudden the judge said, send the paper out. He threw the case out. And we were happy with that because the IRS.
Okay, hold on a second. I need to make something perfectly clear because I put emphasis on it when I bioed you into this conversation. I said, okay, John has an 8th grade education and a GED, but you got to watch out for this guy because, anybody can educate themselves. After listening
education you can get
to what you just said, okay, if you haven't convinced everybody listening to this show right now, and all of those who will listen to it once it goes to the YouTube, version, and we put that out again, that it doesn't take a college education, it doesn't take a law degree to learn how to take care of your own ass in this country, then it'll never happen. John, that was perfect. That was
Thomas Jefferson said that law should be in plain language for the plain person. And that's exactly what the Constitution is. I got to agree. There's a few places, maybe Old English words or whatever it is, that's a little difficult to work out, but you can work it out. Just get a dictionary and start researching it. But the thing is the Constitution is a very simple paper. It's cut and dry. And Jefferson spoke about those who would come making a mountain out of a mole, trying to make it say this or say that, depending on what it is that they wanted to do. But no, it's plain language.
It's called interpretation.
Exactly. Well, that's what they try to do, to interpret it. But when you look at our paperwork, we're right to the point, clear and direct, and right for the jugular. And we put the sins of these people right into the courts. We don't put them in one court. We put them in all 94 federal.
Well, isn't it the job of the Supreme Court to interpret the Constitution and the Bill of Rights?
Well, they're not really to interpret. You can use that word interpret, I guess.
Well, that's what they say. I'm being the devil's advocate here. That's what they say.
Look,
their job is.
Common law is logic and obvious to all. Okay. And when you come into a courtroom and you got two people, let's say they were fighting in a contract, or even the government coming out after an individual, sides, and one does a sworn affidavit and the other one doesn't. Well, guess who wins? That's it. Game over. Because the government will never swear to anything in a court of law. This is what I've seen in all our years in courts. They will not swear to anything. So that's why we require that when we do habeas corpuses, and it's required. They have to swear to everything. But you see, if they did swear against you, now you have a conflict. Now you have a battle. Okay. Well, then you get a jury, and it doesn't take long for a jury or anybody. Look at this: a Freudian slip. When you're lying, you're going to slip somewhere eventually. As the things go back and forth, the truth is going to reveal itself. And that's the way a court system works. But
Don't you have a
about
citizen?
law, you don't need law in a court, just the facts. That's all you need is the facts. The courts are just really all about getting the true facts, see if there's an injured party, and fix the problem. That's
All
what
right.
it's about.
Well, basically, we need to get ready to go out for a break here. We're going to do a break between the 2 hours. Randy, anything you'd like to say going out the door here? You're muted.
No, I'll wait until the next hour because I think I want to open some cans of worms on the other side
I'm
of this tonight.
sure you will. Gerard, anything you want to say going out the door here, my friend?
Well, I'm pretty good. I'll save it for later. I got a couple points I'll bring up.
One of the things you guys can do is give information out about the website and some of the things
Yes.
you're offering to people who would join your organization. I think that's
You want me to do that now?
Well, actually, this would probably be the perfect time, but you're going to be asked to do it again.
Okay, so we'll do it on my last words is this. It's Thomas Jefferson words. I added my little lingo into this. If people expect to be ignorant and free, forget about it.
Wait, hey,
That's the
these
Bronx
guys are
here.
from New York. I had to hear you say that at least one time.
Forget about it.
I mean, you look like Vinny, so forget about it,
Forget about it.
All right,
Beautiful.
so I think we're on our way out now.
We thank you for supporting free and independent media.
You are listening to Off Planet Radio at offplanetradio.com.
And where do you begin a show where there's no beginning and there apparently is no end as well? This is Off Planet TV. I'm Randy Maugans, but it really is the second hour of a bigger show we're doing tonight in cooperation with Roger Landry, the Liberty Beacon Group, and the National Liberty Alliance. With me tonight is John Darash and Gerard from the National Liberty Alliance, as well as raconteur and otherwise bespectacled good guy, Roger Landry. And we hopefully you saw the first hour of this and you got a good introduction to what National Liberty Alliance is doing. This hour, where I want to take us is I want to go into a little bit more the proactive things that they've been doing, especially this year. We basically live now in a very interesting time where the institutions, as we've perceived them in this country, have been stripped of all dignity. The Supreme Court decision legalizing gay marriage earlier this year was probably the most scathing example ever of judicial overreach in creating something that does not exist under color of law. And as Justice Roberts wrote in his decision, this is not a constitutional issue. Now, how they got to that and how they got to the decision are miles apart from where we came as a nation constitutionally. The simplicity of the laws, the morality of the laws, the foundation that was laid by the perception that we are inherently free men with rights given to us by our Creator. And now we have the constructions of law that take place every day in courthouses across this nation. The National Liberty Alliance has been very proactive. And I want to introduce for this audience, if you're just picking this up, John Darash, if you would just maybe give us a brief how to do.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having us on to the show. The first hour was very good so far, and we're looking forward to this.
And Gerard as well.
I'm glad to be here. Hope that this is the first of a long legacy of education and bringing the word out and letting people know that they can be very proactive and actually do something for themselves. Thank you.
This, and that really is the aspect of all of this. Empowering people to be able to actually stand up and take their country back. How far down the tubes we've gone and what it's going to take to bring it back. In the first hour, you kind of indicated that we could be looking at a very short window for bringing this country back if certain things come into play. John,
we are positioned. We are poised right now. Completely poised. Look at we've been into this thing for 30 months as far as moving through under National Liberty Alliance. We took the name on 30 months ago. And in those 30 months, we have solidified the entire nation. Every state has come into the game and working towards what we're doing is building administration across the country. And, look at going back to the problem. Rothschild said many years ago, give me control of the nation's money and I care not who makes the law. But he lied on that. He was trying to get your attention away from the truth. Because the fact of the matter is, if you don't control the courts, you can't control anything.
How many common law grand juries do you have right now?
Well, we'll talk. We actually only have one in operating, and that's the Unified United States Common Law Grand Jury. When we call up to talk to sheriffs, to talk to judges, when we get the people across the nation calling up, they introduce themselves as one of the people, they give them the first name, the Unified Common Law Grand Jury of their state, and that their state, they are working unified with the other 49 states under the name or the veil of the Unified United States Common Law Grand Jury. And that was something that we did because, of the times and the problems that we have. We had to do something extraordinary. And so we unified the whole process. Here's the key thing. We actually went across the nation. We spent time because this was a way to get people active, to get them involved, to get them out speaking and talking and just going through the nation. So what we did is we went out and we reconstituted the grand jury, the common law grand juries and the trial juries in every single county in America. So we took newspaper ads out or whatever, not ads, but actually gave news releases. And we came to a place and the people came together. We showed them a 15-minute clip and maybe spoke to them a minute or two concerning what we're doing and asked them to take a vote, saying in the matter, and it's been pretty much unanimous across the nation. Now, we have a presence in every single state of the union, all 50 states. We have an address in all 50 states. We have 50 seals. And then we have the Unified United States Common Law Grand Jury seal. Now, we're operating as a grand jury under the Unified United States Common Law Grand Jury collectively. And so when we have a call to a meeting for purpose of making a decision, 200-300 people show up at minimum. And so it's a huge group of people, and almost everything we do ends up to be unanimous because that's how obvious the crimes and the problems are across our nation. But the key thing is this, we're really building the process. We're building administrations across the nation in every single county. We're looking to put 4 people who are administrators in every single county in America in order to administer to the juries. Obviously, we can't have the political animals control this. You can't have the courts control it. You can't have the judges control it. You can't have any other political animal control it. It has to be the people unconnected without political ties or judicial ties in the system in decision making. And that's we, the people. And we are taking oaths to God, to the creator of the universe, that we will indeed act with a sense of honor, justice, and mercy. And the 3 will hold the 1 to that sworn oath within their counties. And we developed a system that I don't want to get too involved with because it'll take a lot of time to talk about the structure. But basically, it's 4 administrators in every county. So we have 3,143 counties. You make the multiple, it's about 12, 13,000 people. I'd say close to 15,000. Some counties will require more than 4 administrators, but every county has to have a bare minimum of 4 administrators. Now, to have a grand jury come together without a closure date, in other words, you can't have a grand jury come together and act indefinitely because that's a wrongdoing. Grand juries should come together maybe for a week, maybe for a month, and it depends on how many days they're called. In the course of a month, they might be called for 4 days or 5 days. In the course of a week, they might actually be called all 4 or 5 days. But then they have to, turn over and get the next group of people to come in, and someone has to bring them through an orientation to basically lay out the principles. We get 8 hours with them. That's what the courts get. And we can lay out the principles, and we give them a little bit of an education, and then have them take their oath. Now, they could take their oath. The judge will come in and give them an oath, and that's fine if they want to take that oath. But we really work on a vow, and the vow is to the creator of the universe, and that's what they got to take their vow. And we then we're teaching the jurists that if any of the other jurists start to go astray, it's their duty to pull them back into honor, pull them back under the veil of justice, and so on. So we will police ourselves as a people. So right now, the Unified United States Common Law Grand Jury has been in session for about 2 years now. We've been making decisions and doing different things, but particularly in the last year, we've been going through the process of preparing for indictments and writing a lot of papers. And then serving those papers as a grand jurist, or you'll have the jury foreman's signature on there, or we might file some papers if there are informations and different things as administrators. But the thing is even though we've been sitting for almost 2 years and active in the past year, we have to stick with the case. And the case that we're sticking with is subversion against the United States of America from within. And that's the case. And until that case is done with, we will not leave our seats. Now, in the process of time, we're dealing with the injuries of people because we are a sitting grand jury from that perspective, and we're dealing with people that have serious problems. And we realize this not only can be helpful to them to pull them out of jurisdictions by writing habeas corpuses, but it also is a leverage, a wedge for us to get in between the chink in their armor, so to speak, and take control and get into a court here and a court there. What we need to do is get into 1 or 2, and that's it, game over. Because
Now,
then
let me pull you back here a minute. In terms of the common law grand jury, what is the underpinnings of that? What is the empowerment of a common law grand jury? That's reserved within the Constitution, as I understand it?
Yes, it's we the people. It goes all the way back. The first grand jury called together was 26 people who had enough with the king, and they just couldn't take no more. They grabbed an axe, they grabbed a piece of paper, wrote some stuff on it, chased him down along the highway, pulled his chariot off the road, and put the axe to his head and told him, sign it or lose your head. And he signed it. 3 months later, they did, repent of the fact that they did do violence or threaten violence to get that signature. So they got the signature without the violence. They did swear in the next one that they would do everything necessary to stop this man if he gets out of control again without taking his life or the life of his family. But they would take his castles, they would take his belongings, they would bring him into court. They do everything they have to, even incarcerate him at some point. But getting back to what we're doing, we are creating 4 administrators in every county. And you see, that's grassroots, that's real power. And 4 individuals, we need to train and educate them to a point, and they have to be principled, truly principled individuals. And they have to, and you can become that by just working. When the 3 hold the one, responsible, then you can get the job done. But so we realized that we had to create an education. We had to put things together. So we did write a grand jury handbook. I don't have one on my desk for the moment, but a grand jury handbook for jurists to be handed out to sheriffs, bailiffs, judges, jurists, and so on. And we did do a civics course, 120 hours, which is the preparation to prepare the person and the mind and to come forward to really get into the Constitution and understand their job, which is the next step. But this civics course, which is 120 hours, we cover common law, we cover basic introduction to the Constitution, we cover American history, We cover, there's a guy, trial by jury. What's his name, Gerard?
Lysander Spooner.
Lysander Spooner.
Very good.
We bring a lot of things together. We also teach people how America got to where we're at. We use Mr. Griffin's videos for doing that. So it's an interactive course. You know, they watch a video or listen to something, and sometimes we'll have the written with it, and then they'll be asked a series of questions. And when they get right, they have to get all of them right, and they have as many tries as necessary to get them all right. Then they move to the next step. Now, there are two other courses that we're putting together. One of the courses which we're working on right now, we hope to have it out by January, is an in-depth, point by point, article by article, paragraph by paragraph, or shall I say clause by clause, word by word study of the Constitution, to make it crystal clear and to show that in contrast to what they have done in our government today. So we're going to bring that contrast together within that course. Now, that course is going to be also an interactive course that we're going to put up, where people will get credit for that. We'll see, they'll come and sign up, their name will be in there, we'll watch their progress, and they'll get ranked as they get through. Everybody has to get 100%. So you just can't move to the next step until you get 100% right on whatever the questions are. So you get to the end, you've accomplished the goal, which is really, just experience and familiarity. I mean, that's education. That's all it is just getting familiar with things and using the lingo and just getting involved,
What you didn't say was that we require anybody that wants to be an administrator for a county needs to go through these courses and pass them.
That's a requirement.
Then they have the basic understanding. Look, you're going to sit 8 hours with people off the street. Now, I know everybody's been, there's been a massive dumbing down, but I don't care how much they dumb you down. You give them 8 hours and you tell them, look, you can rule on the law as well as whether you think it's being misapplied, your jury nullification, all that stuff. They'll get it. It's simple stuff. It's nothing, it's not rocket science. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
no, that was actually very good.
Well, let me just finish this up, though, with the educational point. Yeah. Okay, and so there's a series of education. We have to educate them. Look, it would be a wrongdoing for us to create this system, get people into power, and then let them go. And people will be acting out of anger. They'll act without principle. Look, we're not going to get blessed for that. And we're going to lose it all. We'll only become them. So look, this process that we're taking people through and educating, we have a higher education also. We have more of an education than what we're talking about. If you click on the link education, there's a lot more there, and that people would go all on their own in order to educate themselves more and more and much more deeper in different areas. But the key thing is that the civics course number 1, then the constitutional course number 2. And we're doing this also for the sheriffs. And now the sheriffs are coming in and they're going to be taking the courses and going through the process. We've already made the connection with the CSPOA, and they've agreed to come in we'll be the place of their education. And that's what we're here to facilitate: education, communication, organization, and bringing the people together. You see, we are not an organization per se. We're not a group per se. We are an assembly of people that have come under extraordinary circumstances with extraordinary, responses, and to bring America back to 1789, where we.
I'm so glad you put the word extraordinary in there.
Yes.
Because that's what makes it so applicable. These are extraordinary circumstances.
And these are extraordinary times, yes.
Right, and you have extraordinary solutions. That word is so apropos at this point in time, it's insane.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, we also are at this point in time, we've already defined the book and created the boundaries of the book necessary for grand jury administrators, which will be a grand jury handbook. We might create a particular course for the grand jury as administrators. I'm not too sure about that, but we definitely are going to create the necessary criteria that is required for jurists and grand jurists, whether it be grand jurists or trial jurists. And they have an 8-hour orientation. So we're going to create an 8-hour orientation for those people as they come in. And we will train through the handbooks, through all these other educational things that we're putting together. We will train these people so that they can respond. Now, we will always have the National Liberty Alliance as an advisor, and also as a place for rallying and a place to come together when we need to execute, if necessary, in the future after we solve this problem. Unified United States common law. So that'll always be there for that person's purpose process. But we really want to encourage people to educate themselves, stand on principles, and when they run into a problem, they can just come online and get a hold of us, give us a call, come to the meetings, and we can share and then share the problems and the solution with others. We can be those advisors. We want to educate. As time goes on, the cream will rise to the top. So you'll get individuals in different states that will be able to execute these in a very efficient and effective way, and understand the process and really put it all together that they can become an advisor within their state. So we want to create this whole system where people are working with people, educating people, and helping people. And then we will continue on the national level to help all. But we'll also be able to bring the nation together in one accord in certain focuses. We can solve a lot of problems literally overnight collectively if we get together and decide how we're going to solve it, and then go into our counties and execute it all at the same time, and in one day solve huge problems. And I don't want to necessarily get into any of those details at the moment. But again, just for instance, we have a lot of people in jail that don't belong there. County jails need to be emptied out. Okay, and we can do that in one day, overnight, literally. And we could be very careful on how we do that. And the people that need to be retried because they are criminals, then we'll take that through the process, and we'll see how the grand jury might want to handle that. And we'll see. And remember, we're not the grand jury at that point. We're the administrators. And when they need us, they will call us, and we will advise them. And when it's time to write the papers because they want to express their conclusions, whatever they may be on paper, particularly with the grand jury, then we'll be there for the writing and making sure that we are expressing their will. They're the people, the 26 people looking at that case. So we'll want to make sure we express their will perfectly on that paper and then apply it for them. There's always got to be someone to do that. Right now, we have bar attorneys doing that, and it's very destructive. So this is what we need to build, and this is what we are building.
I did say one thing. I made up a meme not too long ago, and I don't know if I'm going to get it word for word, but it's so apropos for what you just said. And basically, what we need to do is substitute every non-violent, victimless criminal in our for-profit prisons today for every corrupt politician who is screwing we the people over today. And then you will see justice done.
And we need to shut down the federal and state prisons because there's no need for them. When a person commits a crime in a particular county, whether they go to the federal court or to the state court, they need to be there where their family and support is. After all, we do want to bring these people back into society if the decision is made to imprison them. But you see, in common law, generally speaking, imprisonment isn't necessarily the solution, and it should really be a rarity. The key to the whole thing is restitution, okay? Of course, when you have violent people that are under control, you have a little bit of a different thing. But we do have to bring these people back into society. You cannot take a man's unalienable rights for the rest of their life away. When they've done something wrong and they committed a crime, and then we can restore them, and the possibility is there, and we can restore them, and they come back into society, and they paid their debt, they paid restitution. If there was a time period to be on some kind of a probation, that's fine. But once that's done, look, they get their horse and their guns back. That's their protect themselves.
You could start by eliminating crimes against the state and crimes which do not have a victim.
Well, exactly. They won't come up in a common law court. They can't. And we won't permit a chancery court to do
That's
that.
what I stipulated. Victimless crimes.
How many times do we see paperwork that comes across that says Commonwealth or state of versus so-and-so?
Right.
In other words, the presumption being that the state is an injured party.
Right. And the state reaps in all of whatever monies might come. Look, if there's a drug dealer involved and they seize properties and they seize cars, they seize monies, who do you think gets that? The victims don't get that. Okay, if they're if they are victims, and when there is a victim, they throw them back in the street. There is no restitution. They got to go into a civics course and then deal with some chancellor who thinks he's the king, wants to lord over me, and you're not going to get justice there anyway.
Now, can we kind of for a minute, just so I understand this and the viewers as well, the common law on the county level, the common law grand juries are what? They are impaneled. They are under the administrators. So we would have 4 administrators minimum. We would have a common law grand jury seated in each county that would meet in a period of, let's say, every 30 days. Is that
Well, common law look, a grand jury would be called when necessary, okay? And a
okay?
grand jury may be seated for a full month, but they may only be called in to work 4 or 5 days out of that month. If you're in New York City, you have a whole different story. They may be working all week. You might have 2 or 3 or 4 grand juries operating, and they'll be working through the system. You take a place, for instance, let's say you have a situation, you're in, we have sister counties, and we work together. For instance, if there's a problem with one of the individuals and they're violating their oath, their vow that they took, and the 3 individuals decide this guy's got to go because he's just not doing the right thing. So they can him because they have the power to fire him. 3 have the power to get rid of 1. Now, if that individual feels that they've been jilted, they do get a second hearing. They get to be able to go to their sister county, and the sister county, you got 4 administrators. They'll come in and hear the case, and then they'll give a final conclusion, and that's it. So it's sort of an appeal system set up. And this would protect someone if 3 people were wrongly ganging up on that other person. But that's part of the system to set up. But it also works the other way. Let's say you got a sheriff, and he arrests somebody and he doesn't want to let him go. You want to get a grand jury within 72 hours. You don't want to hold them long without the permission of the people. But it was a violent case or an armed robbery, whatever the case may be. So the sheriff calls down to the courthouse, and we don't have a sitting grand jury. But you know what? Right across the river is maybe Ulster County or Orange County, and they have a sitting grand jury. We get on the phone so they can make the decision for that point to start the indictment and to hold them. So this way we could take this away from the judges. These judges, they really don't make good decisions, and they have to be re-educated. Anybody that's of the bar cannot be a judge. Okay, lawyers can be of the bar if they want, but no one's going to hire them anymore.
Why you keep using that profanity on this show? Come on, my God.
So they could come into court and argue a case, but they'll lose every time if they argue according to the bar rules and the process.
From what you're describing here, it sounds to me like a grand jury could be a full-time panel right now.
Well, the administration is a full-time job.
Okay, so the administrators are the first level of this.
Right. The administrators is also the investigative body for the grand jury. They have the power and the authority to walk into any government office and make the phone call. Hey, speak to the clerk or this one or that one. Hey, we're sending down a panel of 2 or 3 or 4 people from the grand jury, and we expect cooperation. We're going to be looking into people's desks and looking into files, talking to people, questioning, and so on and so forth. We'll be there at 9 o'clock. See you then. And that they go down there and they walk into the place and they take care of business. We own the place. After all, we're the boss. We, the people, are the boss. I'm going to tell the person.
That goes to my next question is
going in down in the drawer over here, whatever you want. In the United States versus Williams, it was said that the grand jury can investigate just to make sure they're not breaking the law. Isn't that great?
Okay. So who funds this? Who pays for this?
Oh, well, I don't want to get too deep into that, but of course, right now they're paying someone to do this, obviously, and it works.
That's what I'm asking you.
There's a budget that's set aside for the administration of the juries. Okay,
yes.
And we're not going to allow bar lawyers, nor we're going to allow bar judges, or even if they're not bar, we're not going to let them do it. They're politically connected and they're controlled to some degree. We, the people, unconnected from this whole process. And it's not that we're going to pull a paycheck from these people or anything. We'll give them a budget. We'll need X amount of dollars. We've already worked all of those parts out already, and that's kind of sitting ready to go. But the bottom line is this. Let's say it's X amount of dollars, whatever X is, that we're going to need for a budget for the year. We may even look to see what they spent over the last few years, and we'll definitely do better than they do. We'll start off with that budget. Then we'll get money back at the end of the year, and then they'll drop dead. But, we will take that process. We get it from the controller. Now we have to give an account. And whatever the accounting requirements is maybe we have to report every 3 months. If that's what everybody else does, then that's what we have to do. But an account would go, there would be a checking account opened up under the grand jury within that county, controlled by the administrators, and the necessary payments would come out of that. When grand juries come in and they get seated, they need to be paid. And we're not talking $25 a month. These people are doing important jobs. Yeah. And they're also leaving their jobs, and they have families. They have to support their families. And they may be leaving their jobs 4 or 5 days out of the month or out of the week. So we need to pay them something decent, reasonable. And that needs to be thought out and negotiated. But all of these things, the process and the procedure, how to file for that, and all the inner workings of the mechanisms, we're not going to talk about, because then we'll maybe have other people coming in to rob the system with alternative motive, ulterior.
Understood. Yeah. Now, what I was looking for you to amplify was the fundamental process, the flow of how this goes. What are the issues that a grand jury would be looking at on an ongoing basis? Case reviews, reviews of extraordinary corruption, review of judicial process. Are
Well,
these areas?
almost everything and anything. Look, the first order of business, and we go to the Magna Carta for this, because they set the stage for this and how the process works. And they, the ones that created the idea of 4 individuals to go out and repair or fix a problem. If some kind of a disagreement comes up between the king or the government that is and one of the people, then these 4 individuals go in to fix that problem. And if they can fix that problem, then it goes away. If they can't,
that's your plea bargaining that they're doing now. It takes away that plea bargaining because they're going to do it right there up front. Of course, they don't like that. They'll drop dead because that's where they make their money.
But our plea bargaining is not going to be unrighteous, where we're going to cut some kind of deal to give some.
It'll be restitution.
That stuff. It's going to be restitution, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. And so if we can't come to a conclusion, okay, then we let it be known we're going to take this to the grand jury. You sure don't want to work it out with us? Well, okay, fine. We take it to the grand jury.
One second, John. You brought something into play here for the first time in this entire conversation, and I'd like you to expound on it just a little bit, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who have no clue what the Magna Carta is and what its importance is in this entire system, because it's not the Bill of Rights, it's not the Constitution, it's not the Declaration of Independence. It precedes all of them.
And this year is the 800th anniversary.
800th anniversary.
Right.
So please,
All of
before
our
you
seals.
continue, give just a little bit more about the Magna Carta. Please.
All of our seals have in the center of the seal every state seal and every county seal. And we've created county seals. There's a lot of counties with seals already. We've got all the states have seals, and the unified United States has the seal. And in the center of the seal, there's a date, 1215 AD, focusing right in onto the Magna Carta. Okay, now the Magna Carta, what that was ultimately, you got to understand how common law worked. Common law visited England or Britain about 400 AD. And ultimately, believe it or not, the Vikings brought that in. And now when they came into Britain, they met with the Bible. Now, it was very kind of strange because Jefferson commented on this in his writing. And I had commented the very same thing Jefferson had commented in my own mind, wondering, because these people that came with the common law really were bringing in what was called ultimately the law that Israel had in, was it 1600 BC? I forget exactly, maybe 14, I think it was 1450 or something. But anyway, they had the same process, everything was pretty much the same. So when they came but they must have lost somewhere, they lost something. But their idea was to be ruled over by God and not by man. So their whole process was around that idea. So when they brought that to Britain, okay, into England, and that's when they hit the Bible, they became very, very close tied and fused. So if you read the Magna Carta, it's like almost reading the Bible. There's a lot of things, it's just like reading the Bible. But the thing is the king originally, and this is where they went astray, because this is what happened in Israel. They did the same thing in 1007 BC, where they decided they wanted a king. They said the same, we want a king. So God said to Samuel, don't worry, they're not rejecting you, they're rejecting me. I'll give them the king. They'll get what they want. I'm going to give it to them. Yeah. And everything is downhill. Now, what happened?
I'll give you a king.
The very same thing happened in England, okay? And they chose a man to represent. That was the big mistake. They chose a man to represent the sovereignty of everyone. So if you had an injury or a situation and you were a free man, okay, you try to find out where the king is and meet up with his court so you can bring your case in and get justice. But it was always around justice. And of course, that becomes political. You got a government connected to it. Next thing you know, the king goes astray. And that's what happened in 1215 AD. You had the king that went astray, and he was terrorizing the people. The guy was a tyrant. And they had enough of it. So the people came together and called together the first grand jury. So who called the first grand jury? We, the people, called the first grand jury. And the solution of the grand jury is to fix the problem. And they established 26 people. And they also established the rule and the idea of sending 4 out first, sort of a scout, see if you can fix the problem. And the other 26 come in and they fix it by sending in courts. Now, the grand jury also has the authority, and we will teach them that if you can solve the problem without sending it into the courts, do it, you know? And so you have to make sure, you know, the injured party and the person who did the injury both have to agree to the solution without due process. And if they can agree, if the grand jury can get them to agree, they can fix the problem, put it under contract, and seal it. That's it. You got
like
it.
binding arbitration type.
Right, exactly. And so, but if they can't make the agreement, well, okay, we'll send you into the courts and we'll get the 12 jurists with a couple of spare wheels, and they'll fix the problem.
You know whose heads are turning around? Green stuff's coming out now, don't you?
That's right.
Well, this goes back.
They love this stuff.
This goes back to the New Testament where Jesus told people to go work it out between themselves before they were taken before a judge.
Right, absolutely. And he spoke terrible about lawyers. Forget lawyers.
Oh my God, yes.
People don't need a
And
lawyer.
bankers.
Yeah,
The
bankers.
money changers kick their butts right out to temple.
Yeah, that was a show a couple weeks
That
ago.
was yes, the last bank show we did.
Right, banksters and bosters.
Yeah.
Look at the people have the ability to go to court themselves. One of the other things we're planning on doing, as soon as we're established and we get everything kind of fixed, and even as we're fixing it, we're going to start a movement, because we'll have a presence for people working in every county to gather together a review board. And we'll, you know, these people need to be paid, and that'll come out of the budget. They'll be paid to come in and do their job, to do a review. And ultimately what they need to do is work into the schools. We need to get the education we're teaching people here in National Liberty Alliance. We need to get that into the schools. Educate them as babes right up into they graduate.
Just take all the time they're usually teaching Common Core classes and teach these classes. Yeah.
And how to live in a militarized zone.
That's a ticket. Yeah.
How to undress for them, and and go through all the checkpoints and living in a militarized zone. So, but anyway, we can fix all these problems. And when you couple this, because we plan on getting back to the committeeman process, which there is one committeeman in every single election district in America, and in the cases of 2 parties, you have 2, one for each party. But we're putting together, and what we have done together with the committeemen already, and developed new rules and bylaws, which really are rules and bylaws that serve the people, not themselves, to keep power, but gives the power back to the people and serves the people. The ultimate thing is we're looking to fuse it. When we had our convention here in New York with the New York committeemen, we brought all the New York elected committeemen together and others who wanted to become elected committeemen. And we got together, Democrats and Republicans fused back the Jefferson Party, the Democratic Republican Party. We fused them back together, and we came in one accord with one set of rules for both parties, with the idea and the intentions to get rid of the 2-party system, just like George Washington said. Nothing but destruction. We don't need political parties. We need people representing the political process in order to bring statesmen into the process and have them rule, and we will watch them like a hawk from the judicial end. And we can get rid of anyone like that once they start to break the rules, because all we have to do is indict them. If they break the Constitution and violate the people, we can indict them. If they break the law in any way, we can indict them. So we can use the committeeman. And in the committeeman alone, I mean, goodness, I even forget the numbers. We used to know the numbers, how many thousands of committeemen across America. Just think of the power and the ability of education and the ability of getting people excited and back on board and getting them into the whole process by combining the 4 administrators in every county and bringing together the committeemen to work together to bring an education right there into every community. That's grassroots. And that's part of our process. We also want to explain to people the true political process and the way people are supposed to be elected, our servants, how they're to be elected, because they're not doing it according to this book. We've got to fix that. But we also have to explain to them what the powers and the authorities of each one of these offices are. And when you're going to go out to vote someone, you've got to understand what their job is. And you also want to know who these people are. So we
Wait
will
a
set
minute. You're telling me we're not electing people the way the Constitution says? You're telling me that people like senators are not being elected the way they're supposed
right. That's right.
Absolutely not.
My God,
Interesting,
please
yeah.
tell me it isn't so. Now, I
17th
know that.
Amendment to destroy
Hold on.
government.
I've written about this. I know about this, but I would like one of the two of you to please explain the fact that senators were never intended to serve the way they're serving today, or to be elected through the process they're being elected through today. Because 99 out of 100 Americans on the street haven't got a freaking
Same thing with
clue.
the president. They don't understand how the president was selected and the vice president.
Well, they're all selected now. As a matter of fact, in 1933, Franklin Delano Roosevelt is on record of saying presidents are selected, not elected.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, going back to your senator thing, yeah, look at they serve at the pleasure of the legislator of the state. You see, this was such an important point for the states to have the power and the authority in our federal city. Okay, and when the states didn't like what was going on, they can yank their one or two
Yes.
out and put in people that would do the will of the legislature. And that is an extremely important point. 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 25 years ago, all these problems would have been solved if the legislators had the power over their senators, but they don't. That's what the 17th Amendment ruined. Now, our founding fathers are so brilliant. Every time I read this book, and it's just amazing to me that they have put this whole thing together and sewed it so well together, and how it works, and how they balanced the powers and gave them checkpoints. And one of the checkpoints, of course, is the people within a particular election district. It's a congressional district. They get to choose their U.S. congressman. And when they choose that person and send them to Washington to do their will, not the will of special interest groups, because that's payoffs and that's a crime, but to do the will of the people. And they have the power of recall, and when you get the committeeman back to the people, believe me, they'll recall anybody who's not doing the will of the people, just like the legislature of the state will recall the senator not doing the will of the Senate. So if the people bring together and they make a mistake through their assembly, through their representative as congressman, and they make an error, well, the state there can shut it down and fix it. And if the state makes a mistake going through the process to violate the Constitution or something of that matter, then the people can fix it. But above it all, if they can't catch it or they don't catch it, only the people of the grand jury can fix that. And we can do it at will at any time, and we can remove anyone from office like that, just by doing an indictment. Simple job.
The real short story with the committee man is that they turned the system upside down. And so now your candidates are picked from on top. They hand the petitions down below to the soldiers that walk the petitions, instead of the lower guys lauding the candidate and saying, we like Jack, where he comes up from the grassroots, from the bottom. There's none of that going on, and they're all appointed. They're not elected. And, how many times have you had a committee man knock on your door and say, hey, I'm your precinct committee man, and ask you what your gripes are so he can bring it back to the rest of the group. That's how government's supposed to work, from the grassroots up. And that's part of the mosaic system that came out of that mosaic system, where they had tens of families and then hundreds, and it worked its way. And look, nothing got up to Moses and Aaron unless it affected everybody and they couldn't take care of it locally. This business of the big poobah president sitting up there doing presidential edicts to fix us is all a fallacy. You're not going to fix this thing from the top down. It has to come from the bottom up.
It goes even worse than that, because what there's two things that Americans fail to realize today in masse. One of them is that an executive order signed by the president has no authority over we the people. It only has authority over people who work within the executive branch. Okay, period. So when they say, oh, the president just signed an executive order, my God, we're all in trouble. That's absolutely not true. But most Americans have bought into the belief that an executive order is a law. It is not. That's the first thing. The second thing that too many Americans have bought into is that and I actually did an on the street test of this. Okay. I asked 200 people to rank the 3 levels of government in this country: the federal government, the state government, and the people. And 94.8%, okay, and it was actually more than 200 people, but around 200 people, because it was 94.8% of the people rated it as the federal government had the most power, the state governments had the second most power, and we the people had the least amount of power. That is exactly 180 degrees out of what the Constitution says. So if you take these 2 precepts that a vast majority of this country believe in as being exactly the opposite of how they exist or are supposed to exist, then you understand a lot of the trouble, a lot of the problems, and a lot of the, a lot of the powers that have been absconded from us, or we have acquiesced through ignorance. And it is up to organizations like the National Liberty Alliance and the, our organization to educate people on reality, because what they believe today and what they're practicing today is not reality.
Hey, they
Absolutely.
brainwash you every day.
People don't know what liberty is. I remember when I really started to look into the Constitution for the first time, and that was back in about 1999, because I had some IRS problems back then. And I started looking, I started to saw the power of the Constitution. I didn't know that they were going to ignore it, though. But nevertheless, I started to look at liberty, and people don't understand what liberty is. Liberty is the most important part of liberty is let the guy next door be free. If that guy wants to stick a needle in his arm and take his life, I mean, look, you owe it to him to try to talk him out of it, but you can't rip that needle out of his arm, neither can the state. If this is what the guy wants to do, he sticks a needle in his arm and he ends up killing himself. Well, this is his right. We don't have the right or the authority to intervene with whatever immoral acts or whatever moral acts or whatever we think about those acts. It's up to the people. And that takes a mature people. People get very upset when you say something like that. People have the right to do what they please. Now, there are certain things that, of course, that shouldn't be done in public, obviously, so you don't want to corrupt the morals of a minor in pub by doing terrible things in public places. So, I mean, that's just common sense. We live in society. And the grand jury can deal with that. And the administrations of the grand jury can deal with that. But, it all gets back to education. And really, education, people need to understand American history. They need to really get to know their founding fathers. They need to understand some of the great decisions of the Supreme Court. These are fascinating things. It's all about liberty. This is what life is about, your right to live a life. Again, we get back to the Constitution. We, the people, in order to, of the United States of America, in order to form a perfect union, number one, again, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty. I mean, that's what it's all about. And Jefferson said it, when you have a problem, and this is where we are today. This is a Jefferson quote. I know no safe depository of the ultimate powers of society but the people themselves. And if we think them not enlightened enough to exercise their control with a wholesome discretion, the remedy is not to take it from them, but to inform their discretion by education. This is the true corrective of abuses of constitutional power. Thomas Jefferson. That's what we need to know. That's what we need to understand. We need to bring it to the schools. And, you talk to people who don't think about these things at all, okay? And you bring it up to them for the first time, and they have no concept of, well, how can you have a town without traffic lights? You need to have traffic lights. You need to have all these rules. You have to have, don't do this and don't do that. They've been so trained with mommy and daddy to take care of them, they can't take care of themselves. We have a video up on our website. It's The Road to Nowhere or something. I forget the name of it. But if you go click on it, it was an experiment performed in a town where they were going to remove all traffic lights in the town. And they went out in the streets and started talking to the people about this idea. Oh, that's crazy. That's insane. That'll never happen. No, you can't do that. People are going to get hurt. People are going to get killed. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. The day came, they veiled up all of the traffic lights. And they just put the stop signs up, yield signs and everything. And everything was like clockwork. Cars stopping, people crossing streets, people with babies.
It looked like blood flowing through arteries.
I'm telling you.
Oh, wait.
The people said, don't bring back the lights. We don't want them.
How about Kinnison, Georgia?
It used to take me 25 minutes to walk to work. I do it in 10, 15 minutes now.
How about Kinnison, Georgia, where they basically said every household shall own a gun and the ammunition for that gun. And
crime goes away.
Immediately, all of the reporters said, you're going to have killings sprees, you're going to have violence, it has been violent crime-free for 30 years since that statute went into effect in that community. Absolutely. And there's a sign coming into town that says this is not a gun-free zone. Everybody has a gun. They have no crime.
So all those criminals aren't really illiterate, are they?
No.
Well, I don't think I'd be wrong in making this statement that 80% of the crime in America would disappear if you legalized drugs. Just control it like any other product. Okay,
I would agree with you.
Yeah. People buy wine, they buy beer, they buy liquor, and whatever the state law says, you got to be 18, you got to be 21, and you take care of the law. But you know what? There wouldn't be problems with drugs in school anymore because you don't have the drug dealer out there trying to build up their clientele. Okay, and selling drugs to kids. That wouldn't be there anymore. You wouldn't be walking in some state land or federal land and come upon some crop or something and you lose your life because some cartel takes you out.
And the United States wouldn't have the largest prison population
on
the planet populated 80% of them victimless, non-violent, drug-related crimes.
And you would have children growing up not knowing much about drugs and not being necessarily interested.
Well, when you have the largest drug cartel in the world being the United States military,
I knew you were going to say that, Randy.
And the intelligence agency, specifically the CIA, running heroin out of
Afghanistan.
Nations.
Clinton was doing something down there.
Of course they were.
Wait a minute. The U.S. soldiers, the U.S. military are guarding the poppy fields in Afghanistan. I have photographs of this.
Well, what do you want? Their counterparts here in the corporations, that's their money.
Yeah.
We get off track.
But
I see we're running out of time, and I don't want to let this show go out tonight without talking a little bit about your activist side, that being the filing of the writ quo warranto and the writs mandamus, which you refiled warranto back in May, along with numerous writs mandamus going out to sheriffs, judges, and pretty much every organ
and the military.
And the military as well.
Everybody gets it.
Give us an update on the status of those documents, where we are today, and the effect we should hope to see long term as a result of the work that you've done.
All of those documents are meant to be as one, and it's just a series of documents. I mean, some of them are 20 pages long, some of them are 14 pages long, and some of them focus towards judges, other to sheriffs or to the Congress, and so on and so forth. And a mandamus is an order. It's an order from the court. Information is an exposure, usually of a crime or a wrongdoing or some kind of a problem that they need to fix. And so we started off with the writ quo warranto, which I don't want to get too much detail of what that really means, but if you guys understand, then you understand.
Well, they can go to your website and read all these documents in PDF. So
the first time we filed that was in, I think, November of last year, 2014. And when we started moving through the process and writing papers in 2015, we decided to refile the writ quo warranto by giving it a number, okay, because we wanted to make sure that it's filed in the court. So we gave it our own number. And the number we chose is a unique number used by all 94 courts. We've ordered them to use this number. And it's 1776-1789-2015. And so that's our number that we use in all courts, and we require them to file it under those numbers. Then we did a series of 12
Nice.
papers after that, all with the sense of every one of them was mandamuses and exposing and revealing. We did one very important paper, I thought, which laid out what is to happen when the emergency comes, and that is what the sheriff is to do, what the military is to do, and how they're protected, and the militia, and how that whole process is to work. And you can go out and read that paper. So all of that was really the process of the papers is really putting their sins on record, revealing it to them, shaking them up, realizing they can't expunge that because they got to go to 94 courts to expunge it. And besides that, we got 8 fax machines running 24/7, sending all this paper out constantly to all the elected officials across America. And we're even starting to go down to the lower level elected officials. But right now, we've been focusing mostly in on federal level and state level. And so all of this education is going out. We also have the memos going out to the sheriffs. And one of the first, we were doing a series of memos, but now we were doing one-page memos. But we started off with, do you know the power? What is the power of the sheriff? Did you know this? Did you know that? It was just a lot of questions, really. And then after that, it's a one-pager.
That's a very powerful officer, the sheriff.
Huh?
That sheriff has a very powerful office.
Oh, yeah, we're going to teach him. I'm hoping that either myself or Gerard will be able to go out and speak to the sheriffs at the national meeting. We're trying to put in a paper, a form to be a speaker out there and to bring to them the power of the sheriff, because that would be our subject matter. And but in any event, we got all these papers going on. Now we've also got papers going on also, which are habeas corpuses. And habeas corpus is the most powerful paper form that has been established in common law. And it removes people from any court that's not a court of law. And of course, they don't like that. And it has great authority, great power, the power to indict those who don't obey. We hold them in contempt with the opportunity to amend. We give them that opportunity. We always put the olive branch out there. But the day will come when the olive branch will no longer be available. We just notified them that we're ready to go. We got the ears of many sheriffs. We got the ears of the marshals, and we even got the ears of the FBI. It's only a matter of time. When the
How about the military? Where is the military in all of this?
Well, the military stays on the border. As a matter of fact, we very specifically told them what they needed to do in the state of emergency when things get bad and we start shooting it out. Hopefully, we'll not get there, but if we do, we laid out what the job is. The military is to immediately move to the borders and protect the borders of the United States. That's their job. And only come in to assistance if called in by either the sheriff or the militia in order to make some kind of the air support.
That brought in my next question.
All of this is laid out in our paperwork.
I've heard it before. I knew he was going to say
it. There's no such thing as martial law in a free country.
That's right.
It has no place in the Constitution. That's for a conquered country.
That's exactly what.
Gerard, we're winding down here. Poke your nose
But
in
I'm
here.
willing to, I have permission to go a little long, so I will entertain this, please.
Okay, but please, Gerard, step in there and say something because you just look way too
You
comfortable.
look pregnant, man. You got to talk.
Come on, say something here.
I am. Leave me alone. I'm going to cry otherwise.
I think I have banana split.
But you are right. Martial law doesn't exist in a free society. But most people listening to this aren't going to understand that. So would you expound on that a little bit?
Well, look at, and that's why the militia is so important, because that's we the people. Look at, we have to police ourselves. You don't use the military against a citizenry. And you stand the danger of a military coup. If you have the military pushing people around, telling them what to do, what's going to keep that general from saying, okay, I'm running things? Well, what are you going to do? They got the guns. Whereas if you have a strong militia, we the people, and you organize them and you use the military to keep any other country from taking advantage of the chaos that might be out there, so they don't come in and take you over, and you reestablish your government and you reestablish law and order and justice. That our forefathers talked about that. That's where the Second Amendment absolutely has nothing to do about hunting.
Hunting traitors.
Yeah, hunting traitors, exactly.
But
So-
hold on one second. Let me address a point and then please continue, okay? I did a radio show yesterday whereby I discussed the fact that since Obama took office, an additional 60 to 80 million guns have been purchased by we the people in this country. The biggest upsurge of firearm purchases in the history of this country. And every time he gets on TV and says, we need to take the guns away, this crap, we can't trust the citizens, they go out and buy a couple million more guns. Hold on. Let me give you, for instance, okay, Black Friday. Hold on. Let me finish. Black Friday.
Black Friday.
Almost 180.
Black Powder
Hold
Friday
on,
is what we're
hold
calling
on.
it.
Almost 186,000 guns were purchased. The FBI said they were doing 2 background checks per second on Black Friday. One day, almost close to 200,000 guns purchased. Since Obama took office and started trying to take our guns away, we have purchased close to 80 million more guns in this country. The American people in private hands have far in excess of 300 million privately owned firearms. We are the largest military, paramilitary force that could possibly exist in the history of the planet. Come mess with us.
So we should give Obama the award as the greatest gun salesman of the year.
I'm wondering if the guy's getting a
Right.
commission we don't know about.
We need to go to the other side of this. We need to depose this tyrant. He is dangerous. He has wrecked the morality, demoralized. I like the term you used earlier. He has demoralized the country to a phenomenal degree. Is it within the scope of the American people to correct this situation and take down?
Not at this moment. Yeah, not at this moment. Look, there is a guy down in Florida, and he's actually, I think he's a bar attorney, but he kind of is a rogue down there, and he took control and started the movement of the grand jury and calling grand juries and operating all on his own. And he's been doing some good work, but he's still a lawyer. He thinks a lot like a lawyer, but he did go out and indict Obama, and that didn't go anywhere. A lot of people have called for it. We, the people, through the Unified United States Common Law Grand Jury, will deal with that when the time comes. That which is expedient and it isn't necessarily that which is principled and the right. And you got to pray for wisdom to know the right timing.
Yeah.
And you got to look for the clues of the right timing. And we've been blessed to be able to see the right timing in the things we've done and when we make the next move. And a lot of things, we thought we were going to go this way and we ended up going that way. And again, because you don't know until you see how things play out. But right now, we are in an extremely good position, and we are poised. And the fear of the people, no doubt, is in the judiciary, along the federal judiciary. They know who we are. They know a lot about us. They know they can't send the FBI out after us anymore because, after all, we send everything we send to them to the FBI, too. So we keep them fully abreast. And we also do the same thing with, of course, the sheriffs and the marshals. They know everything. When the FBI came out to see me, and they came out with little pieces of paper with little things on it, they just said, "Did you say that?" And I said, "Oh, no, that was Scalia who said that. I was just quoting him." And the guy went back to look and see. And I said, "Where's the rest of the paperwork?" Well, this is all. Well, let me get you all of it. So I educated. He left, kind of liking what we were doing. We were very friendly. They sat at my kitchen table. So, look, we're educating them to send spies amongst us as they're going to lose forces, because we're purely 100%, founding fathers, Supreme Court rulings, and the Constitution. 100%.
Well,
we don't have to move into the land or the land. We have standing. They don't.
let me say one more thing, Randy, and then I promise to shut up. Okay.
Shut up.
I want to tell both you, John, and you, Gerard, how proud the Liberty Beacon Project is to have been able to call you our partner for the last year plus. And anything, and I will say this again and again, that we can do to support any stage we can give you, any media we can put out, anything we can do to support your organization, because we truly believe that no matter what we're doing and what direction we're going in, you've got a base covered, we don't. And without you, our movement isn't whole. You are very, very much appreciated, my friends. Very
Well,
good.
we were
And
blessed to
Thank you.
discover this. We appreciate that. We were very
Right.
blessed to discover this.
And we need the coverage too, because part of our power, a big part of our power, is shining the light. And so when we put out for a call, when we have a certain case in court, and we have so many notorious cases, really notorious, that it's disgusting. So we give a little blurb on the case and we say, call this judge and say this, and ask him why this. And when they start getting calls from all over the nation in a certain area, and they know that it's coming from the common law grand jury movement, and we have people showing up in court with their pens and papers writing affidavits as to what's going on, because you know they like to change the transcripts. You know, they couldn't do that, but they do. So when people show up for this stuff and they show up to these court dates, that really is the power. Besides the papers we write, the people power. So you can help us facilitate that, so that this is really will truly become a movement, and that's really what frightens them, because they're cockroaches and the light's coming on.
And to that end, we want to give people the information they need to find you, follow you, join you, help you, and support you. So give us all of your critical contact
Yeah,
information.
come to nationallibertyalliance.org. Read the front page, watch the videos, and you'll get a good idea of who and what we are. We have live meetings every Monday. They're teleconferences nationwide. We do it at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's about 6 p.m. out on the West Coast. We usually have a full house to that, and we've got plenty of room for more people, of course. We always will. And but we come together. We usually teach something, or read a paper, or look into something that's really going on today, give a lot of the insight and information of what we're doing, how we're doing, and what we've got going on. And then we do open forums. People ask questions and make comments, and it goes 3 hours long. And we've been doing this for 30 months, actually more than 30 months if we go back into the committee man thing. We've been doing this for 30 months, and we haven't missed a Monday yet. Every Monday, 9 p.m., unless Christmas fell on it or something. I don't think it has, but anyway, we do it every Monday. So that's, we keep people active, and that's the whole thing. When we started this thing, we realized we had to have a weekly meeting, and we had to have activity. We got to get people active in the ground. We got to get people active in their counties. We gave them something to do, to go out and talk to the people and ask them to come and vote to reinstate the common law grand juries and just get involved. And so we built a very powerful, really a very powerful group of people, or an organization, if I want to call it that. But we're really an assembly, so a very powerful assembly. We're coming up on 5,000 members. We have tens of thousands of people that follow us, and I might even say hundreds of thousands. But we know we've got tens of thousands. We know that from Google Analytics, and we do have name recognition finally for quite some time now. Everybody's heard of National Liberty Alliance and Liberty Field, and everybody in the judiciary on the federal level knows about us, and they're worried.
We definitely trumpet your name. We definitely trumpet your name.
This is the answer to the Tea Party. The Tea Parties were out there waving signs, doing. Look at Glenn Beck assembled how many people at Washington? That was a wonderful thing.
Glenn Beck would have done what we're doing. That would have been fantastic.
Well, look at he proved that the people want something, that they're upset, and they're willing to come out. And it was America. It was apple pie. They tried to call him terrorists. There was grandma with the 2 grandchildren, right? It was the most ridiculous thing. But everybody kind of they rah ships combined, and then they lost interest. You can't lose interest with us. I mean, there's so many places you can go and so many things you can do, and there seems like there's never enough time to do it all. But you're never inactive. You're never at a loss, and it's always exciting. And you know what? As it goes along, it can be fun too. It's a lot of fun when you have a victory. It's a lot of fun intimidating these actors up there, and even on the top, look at, and Obama's not the answer, because don't forget, he's just one guy. He's no worse than Bush was. I mean, at Bush gave him a platform. We lost more liberties under Bush, and Obama just set up on the platform. These guys are doing what the elites want. That's what they're doing. I don't think Obama could find something.
Puppets.
That's right, because he doesn't know what he's doing, and he's not an American, by the way. He doesn't know what America means, because you and I grew up with it in our hearts. He's he's one of these guys he's like a red diaper baby. He never experienced the, you know what I mean? And so you and I, look at, he thinks it's strange that we would think to die for anything, because he wouldn't. He changes colors 6 times if he had to. But you and I, we grew up with this idea of freedom. Look at, even if it was a lie, they sold us a nice story, didn't they? And we're willing to die for it. So that's the difference between us and them.
Well, this is actually solution-based media, and so we invite you to join by example what our guests tonight have done. Just common American people that stood up and said, we're going to do something about this, and put together a platform to begin to change things. NationalLibertyAlliance.org is the website. And we're going to wrap it up here. I want to say thank you to my friend Roger Landry for being with me and me being with him tonight. And I want to thank both of you gentlemen for coming on and joining us, John Durash and
Gerard.
Gerard. Sorry. I lost my screen there for a second. Gerard, thanks for being on.
We appreciate you having us, and we're thankful to be.
And anything we can do, give you a platform at any time. I hope next year we'll get to talk.
Call us whenever. We'll come. We look at.
We're hooked up all the time.
All the time, and
I look forward to getting involved as well. I'm very excited about.
If they don't call me Randy, I call them.
Absolutely.
Right.
So we have an exciting year ahead of us.
Yeah, we
We're
are
gonna wrap
difficult.
it up.
We are
Yeah.
difficult to get a hold of, and sometimes it takes a while. But we're just so busy. I mean, we literally.
Oh, gee, I wouldn't know anything about being busy.
You had it right. Real
All
cushy.
right, Randy. Thank you, Randy.
Yeah, we're going to wrap it up. This is Off Planet TV. I think we're going to be off next week. We're going to take a long weekend for the holidays. Wish you all the best until then. The truth is out there. The law's written in your heart. Now's the time to find it and do something about it. Good night and God bless.